Amid the beauty and peace of the South Pacific, it seems strange that so much effort would be placed in the pursuit of money. Yet voyagers from the islands of Yap put their lives at risk to travel great distances in small boats in search of the precious hard material upon which their monetary system is based: stone. In neighboring Palau, they quarried limestone blocks, shaping them into huge coins, some weighing more than a ton. Before many of the voyagers could deposit their investment in Yap, 250 miles away, storms at sea would often claim the stone money and the lives of the men who made it. Those who made the crossing safely grew rich, and centuries later, their coins are proudly displayed in the villages of Yap, known even today as the land of the stone money. These stone pathways are thousands of years old. They were built to connect the villages. And when one would walk into a village that he didn't belong to, he would carry a leaf. It would signify that he comes in peace. I'm Gary Sprinkle. This is Pacific Adventures in Yap. The Yappies valued stone because they believed it would endure, that it would stand the test of time. They were right. Thousands of years later, their descendants walked the same paths, appreciating the foresight of ancestral architects, who even built rest areas. The stone backrests offer mid-journey comfort and the opportunity to chew some betel nut, a favorite of the people here. This man's name is Theo, and he has agreed to take us by stone path to Kadai village. Each village has a meeting house where the men gather to talk about the day's events or to discuss village business. The stone money bank here at Kadai is impressive. The value of the money is not determined by its size, but by the story attached to it. If a piece of money was especially challenging to transport to Yap, then its value is greater than a coin that may have transited without incident. Even if money is traded, it remains in its place, making accounting in Yap quite complicated because people here don't put everything in black and white. The Yappies use mostly U.S. currency now, but the stone money still holds much value.
For instance, the land. Maybe you buy up a land for $75,000, which you trade with only one piece of stone money. So a lot of people wants to buy land or to trade with lands by using a local currency like the stone money we have. But if you try US dollar, then it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Located midway between Guam and Palau, Yap is part of the Federated States of Micronesia. While many of the conveniences of the modern world are available here, most of the people remain traditional. Yappies have always depended on the sea to provide. Hundreds of arrow-shaped stone fish traps dot the waterscape within the fringing reef that surrounds the cluster of 4 islands that make up Yap. Some of these ancient fish traps have been maintained and continue to be used. Labu is a young Yappese educated at the University of Hawaii. Proven to possess a talent for modern technology, he also has a keen interest in the way the old fish traps are constructed.
This is a good example of nature-integrated technology, where they just use whatever the natural forces, such as the currents and fish patterns and fish paths, to collect the fish for them.
As the tide goes out, the fish gather toward the ebb and get trapped within the walls of the arrow. The builders knew that fish can only see so far. They made sure the other end of the trap was obscured, which fooled the fish into thinking they were headed back out the channel.
And as the tide continues to fall, they're guided through this V-shaped section right here. And finally, the fish come right through this opening. This is one of the last holding chambers. Come through between these 2 rocks, swim around a bit through here, and then they come around back here, where this is the final holding chamber. And the fishermen come up and they just scoop out the fish.
These stone fish traps have worked for centuries. The forefathers understood conservation, and Lobu has made it his business to research their work.
A lot of the knowledge will pass away with the elders. And so my main research was through the elders, through my own grandfather, and also through the other grandfathers on the island.
The ancients would be pleased the stone fish traps have stood the test of the tides, and that Yapese, so far into the future, continue to care for them. Seaside villages are erected in many coastal areas of Yap. After all, access to the ocean has always been desired. Today, while there is a large demand to fish here commercially, a relatively small fleet is licensed to work Yapese waters.
We used to do long lining before, but with our sizes of our boats now, they're not that big to travel, long distance. So we're concentrating mostly on bottom fishing and trolling around the islands.
The ocean is the lifeline to Yap's people, so the Fishing Authority pays close attention to commercial activities here. Most spearfishers in Yap also practice conservation by taking only what they will eat. They don't just hunt an area, they monitor it and do what they must to preserve the fishery that has sustained them for centuries. There is a variety of fish on the reef. While one species may be favored over another, the spearfishers remain disciplined in what they take, thereby maintaining a balance. Balabat is one of Yap's many traditional villages. Its people have always depended on the sea. John invites us into his village to share the fish he has speared. Theo offers to prepare the fish for cooking. Lemon leaf is placed inside the gills to enhance the taste. Taro is Yap's other food staple, prepared simply by grating. And on special occasions, they'll add some shaved coconut to the taro. The thinner-skinned fish are wrapped in tea leaf. The people of this village have always had a generous fish harvest.
Each village has its own fishing right. Some people have it from down mangrove all the way up to the reef. Some families are only the mangrove part, and some families are where the blue water is. Because long time ago, each family or each clan have its way of fishing. Some people can use gill net, some people can't. And that's how they become to own the fishing rights.
The dance tells stories of their heritage. This stick dance is performed by village women and was choreographed to celebrate a battle won by their returning warriors. The movements are intricate. The women practice often to retain the technicalities.
I think that the generations now should look at it, that it's something important that we should keep in remembrance of our ancestors. I've asked some of the old ladies to explain some things to me, and I've learned that, and I'm beginning to think it's something that I think we should go back and take a look at. It's unique. It's us, Yapis. It's very beautiful. There's in all, I think I haven't been around the world or any other place rather than this island, but I think there isn't anybody the same as us, our culture.
About 100 people live in this village, nearly all descendants of the earliest Yapese.
It's a pretty relaxed place, you know. You come to it, you don't hustle because you own your own things, you rule your own family, and you have a role to play in the community. So you're pretty much set up. So you don't have to worry about, you know, interfering into other people or affairs or other people interfering with yours.
The elders of this village are content and seek no change. John wonders if the next generation will break with tradition.
To tell you the truth, I'm not so sure. I want to foresee my children's education, and for that it's not available on the island, so they have to go out there.
Before they go, John says he will be sure his children understand what they have at home. Then he says they will decide for themselves if they choose this way of life. The reef that surrounds Yap is among the most vibrant we have seen in the Pacific. The health of the reef is directly linked to the mangroves, which are prevalent in the coastal areas of Yap. Mong Thin is a Yapese woman who takes people by kayak into the mangroves.
It's habitat to a lot of animals. Fish that you see outside the reef, they come here and they use it as a nursery, like barracuda, trevally, jacks. And also the small ones, they come in with the tide, hiding from predators. And when the tide goes out, they go out too.
Mong Thin says the mangroves have provided much for the people of Yap. The trees are used for house posts and for wood-burning stoves, and some of the palms for thatched roofs.
The mangroves are real amazing trees. They put up with a bunch of, a harsh environment, different, rainy season, no rain when it's dry season. They're amazing trees. They have to have fresh water, and yet they live in salt water. They either get water from the rain, and if there's no rain, then they get water, they take in salt water, and they change it into fresh water. And it's just amazing type of trees that we do have here.
The mangroves are even used for medicinal purposes.
This tree, they use it for herbal medicine. But medicine here in Yap, different clans use, they kind of want to keep their knowledge in the clan. But one plant that it's growing on this tree, it's this wild orchid here. And it's used for ear infection.
The mangroves are a necessary nursery for marine life, a filtration system for a thriving reef, a warehouse providing natural materials, and a great place to explore by kayak. Understanding the tides when traveling by boat around Yap is essential, since you can bottom out if you don't. This narrow channel cuts through the middle of the islands. It is used by villagers and by underwater adventurers headed for the Milled Channel. Bill Acker founded Yap Divers and discovered a most fascinating dive site, Manta Ray Ridge. Manta rays frequent a couple of locations known to be cleaner wrasse habitat, small fish that pick the parasites off the huge mantas. The mantas normally come here to be cleaned once a day. Manta rays are part of the shark family, but they are plankton eaters, which may explain why a population of some 100 mantas are permanent residents in these waters.
I think one of the best explanations I've heard is a former governor was a zoology major at UH, and he was saying when he was in school he saw a plankton map of the Pacific, and right around Yap was really lush, but it was a desert just offshore, and the theory is that they just can't leave, that there's no food. If they tried, the distances, say, between here and Palau or here in Ulithi and here in the Philippines are too great.
Acker and his dive group make certain the mantas are not abused, no touching allowed, and divers are asked to stay out of the mantas' cruise patterns. Acker has identified some 50 individuals, and by tracking their life cycle and monitoring their habits, they are gathering valuable information about this magnificent marine animal. If a diver remains still, the mantas will pass within inches. It is an extraordinary experience. Wingspans up to 14 feet, they seem to fly. Here in remote Yap, where tradition is treasured, people appreciate who they are and what they have.
It's our culture that is so different from the rest of the world. And if you live here, that you are truly Yappies, then you get to understand the culture and you get to enjoy it. And that's the good thing about living here in Yap.
The people of Yap have invited the world in. They ask only that we leave it as we find it, and that we listen when they say, Gamad Puwab Abatuf Ayulon Romad Nomad. We Yappies cherish our heritage, the greatest treasure of all, here in the land of the stone money.